Welcome to 365 English. Listen to stories easily. We help you learn English happily through various stories. The speed is slow and the pronunciation is clear. The more you listen, the more you will enjoy it. If you like it, please like it, leave a message to chat, and don't forget to subscribe. Deng Xiaoping's open wisdom. The US-China tariff war is suspended for 90 days. How to seize new investment opportunities. In the torrent of history, some people's decisions not only affect the country, but also change the world. Deng Xiaoping is such a person. In the winter of 1978, he proposed a word that shook China's destiny: reform and opening up. 4 words have put a closed China on the road to dialogue with the world. Today, we are once again standing at a historical intersection. In May 2025, the US-China trade war ushered in a pause. The US government announced it will reduce tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles from 145% to 30%. China also responded simultaneously, reducing tariffs on U.S. agricultural products and technology products from 125% to 10%. For a period of 90 days, the two sides agreed to not decouple, that is, continue to cooperate, negotiate, and run in. This news came from the New York Times on May 11, and global markets responded immediately. The Nasdaq index rose 2.3%, and the Shanghai Composite Index also soared nearly 3%. Multinational companies breathed a sigh of relief. The pressure on the supply chain has eased slightly, and investor confidence has also recovered briefly. But what does this 90-day window mean? What can you learn from this short piece? What wealth opportunities can you strive for yourself? 1. The suspension of the trade war does not mean the crisis is resolved. We must first see a reality. This tariff reduction is not an end, but a phased cooling down. The U.S. remains highly alert to strategic industries, and restrictions on electric vehicles, semiconductors, rare earths, and other fields still exist. China continues to emphasize the strategic layout of domestic circulation as the main and international circulation as the complementary. This means investment opportunities are real, but time is limited. Risks still exist. In these 90 days, if you just watch and do not take action, then when the next wave of policy shift comes, you may have been left behind. So what to do? Let's borrow the perspective of a great man to look at the current situation. 2. Great wisdom. How did Deng Xiaoping win the future with opening up? In 1978, Deng Xiaoping walked into Xiaogang village in Anhui province and saw the contract responsibility system experiment where farmers secretly divided land among households. Instead of punishing them, he said a famous saying: "It doesn't matter whether the cat is black or white, as long as it can catch mice, it is a good cat." This is his philosophy and the starting point of China's economy. At that time, China had been closed off for a long time and was almost disconnected from the world. There was a shortage of foreign exchange, food shortages, and backward industry. But Deng Xiaoping did not back down. He advocated the introduction of foreign capital, the absorption of foreign advanced technology, and the establishment of special economic zones. Starting from Shenzhen, China began to open up to the outside world and gradually participated in the global economy. It was not completed overnight. Every step was crossing the river by feeling the stones. He knew, without connection with the world, China can only stand still. And connection means taking risks and seizing opportunities. This way of thinking is very important for understanding Sino-US trade relations today, especially for ordinary people. When the country is fighting for space at the negotiating table, individuals should also look for gaps in life and seize opportunities. 3. How should ordinary people seize this 90-day investment window? We don't need to understand complex macroeconomic theories. nor do we need to become financial experts. But there are three key directions that you must not ignore. 1. Pay attention to technology stocks and Chinese supply chain-intensive companies. Apple once faced tariff pressure, and its production relied on Chinese foundries. Now that tariffs have been reduced, the cost pressure of such companies will be temporarily relieved. Companies such as Tesla, Nvidia, and Qualcomm have production or sales channels in China, which will usher in good news in the short term. Related technology ETFs such as QQQ and VGT are also worth paying attention to. But be careful, don't gamble heavily. You are not a Wall Street fund manager. Proper layout and reasonable profit-taking are the key. 2. Pay attention to the rebound of consumer goods and e-commerce industries. When tariffs between China and the United States are reduced, the most direct impact is cross-border e-commerce and retail products. American consumers can buy cheaper Chinese products, and Chinese consumers may also repurchase American products such as apples, cranberries, and health products. Within the 90-day window, this is good for platforms such as Amazon, Alibaba, and Walmart. Their stock prices and trading volumes may fluctuate and rise during this period. You can take advantage of this trend and pay attention to whether these companies launch promotions or quarterly report previews. 3. Learn about international trade knowledge and prepare for the future. After 90 days, there is still uncertainty in the market, but there is one kind of investment that will never depreciate: knowledge. It is recommended that you can learn some basic knowledge of international trade online. For example, the free International Business course on Coursera explains how the global market works. The Global Supply Chain Primer guide provided by the World Bank's official website is suitable for beginners. Understand trade terms, tariff mechanisms, and foreign trade pricing structures. You will find that the logic will be much clearer when buying stocks and analyzing the market in the future. 4. From development is the hard truth to learning is the hard support. Deng Xiaoping's most famous saying is not a theory but an action: development is the hard truth. This simple saying directly drives hundreds of millions of people out of poverty, start businesses, go abroad, and strive. Today, although we are facing a complex trade war and a game of tariff changes, the essence has not changed. Global cooperation is the source of development, and personal learning and investment are the chips for ordinary people to fight against change. You don't need to be an economic expert, but you can be an ordinary person who can think and seize opportunities. In these 90 days, you might as well set a goal for yourself. Read a book about international economics. Try to simulate a multinational investment portfolio, or observe how a global event affects the price and logistics of your city. You will find that macroeconomics is no longer a distant word. It is a reality that is closely related to your wallet, your life, and your future. 5. Conclusion: don't let the train of history pass you by. Deng Xiaoping's opening up was not a slogan, but an attitude towards the world and confidence in the future. And our 90-day window today is not a piece of paper agreement, but an opportunity to participate in the global wealth distribution. Don't underestimate these 90 days. Don't underestimate your learning ability and judgment. Whether you are a worker, a freelancer, or an entrepreneur, the suspension of this tariff war is a signal. The market is fluctuating, opportunities are flowing, and the wind direction is changing. The people who really win the future are those who move before the wind comes. Deng Xiaoping once said, "The world is yours and it is ours, but in the final analysis, it is yours." This sentence is now given to you in front of the screen. Part II. Determination in opening up: how Deng Xiaoping used strategic patience to cross the global storm. In the early winter of 1979, the snow in Washington had not melted yet, and Deng Xiaoping, wearing a dark gray Mao suit, stepped onto the American podium. He was not here to quarrel, he said. I came to understand the world and to let the world understand China. This visit opened the curtain of China's opening up to the outside world, and this little old man, in the following 10 years, with a few simple words and actions, has profoundly influenced China's next 50 years. Today, the United States and China are once again at a turning point. The 90-day suspension of the tariff war does not mean that peace will last forever, but it is a window to observe the future and find opportunities. We might as well review Deng Xiaoping's wisdom in dealing with the world and find our own direction in the current global economic wave. 1. Opening up does not mean blind action, the true meaning of hiding one's strength and biding one's time. Many people misunderstand Deng Xiaoping's hiding one's strength and bidding one's time and think it is weakness. But real strategists often compete with each other in chaos to see who can endure more. In the 1980s, China's economic foundation was extremely weak. GDP was less than half of Italy's, and per capita income was less than 1/50th of that of the United States. Faced with the numerous powerful countries and technological blockades, the first thing Deng Xiaoping did was not to show off his strength and fight fiercely, but to open the country, introduce technology, and absorb capital. He said, "It doesn't matter whether the cat is black or white, as long as it catches mice, it is a good cat." It seems like a slang, but it is actually a liberation of rigid ideology. Opening up is not to copy the West, but to absorb flexibly. This idea is still applicable today. Today, the tariff has dropped sharply from 145% to 30%. Many people are excited, but some people are skeptical. Is this a temporary relaxation? Is it a delaying tactic? Instead of guessing, it is better to learn one thing from Deng Xiaoping: maintain strategic determination. 2. The flexible spirit of crossing the river by feeling the stones. Deng Xiaoping never believed in dogma. He was not in a hurry to put forward a perfect top-level plan, but advocated crossing the river by feeling the stones. Shenzhen's special economic zone was felt out. At the beginning, no one knew whether the special zone could succeed, but his words "fighting a bloody road" gave the Chinese economy a test field. Today's global economy is also a complex river. The U.S.-China trade war has been on and off, and the supply and demand chain has been reconstructed again and again. If ordinary people want to keep up with the pace, they must also learn to trial and error, adjust, and start again. For example, it will take several weeks for the impact of tariff reduction on the supply chain to be reflected in corporate revenue. If you rashly invest all your funds in a single sector, the risk is extremely high. But if you can start from a small pilot and gradually lay out like Deng Xiaoping, you will have more opportunities. 3. The system is not a gift from heaven, but the result of daring to change. Before 1978, China's understanding of the market was almost zero. The planned economy dominated everything, and prices, food stamps, and allocations all depended on distribution from above. Deng Xiaoping took huge political risks to promote the dual-track price system and the enterprise contracting system, and later promoted the reform of state-owned enterprises. He knew that the system could not be adhered to, but should be changed according to the situation. The current world economic order is also facing an institutional game. The arbitration mechanism of the WTO is increasingly restricted, and global capital has shifted from integration to regional protectionism. At this time, do you want to continue to find new continents on the old map? Ordinary investors should learn a concept: institutional changes will create opportunities. Behind the tariff war is not only changes in trade figures but also changes in rules. For example, if the U.S.-China agreement strengthens intellectual property protection, some Chinese innovative companies may benefit from the policy. Another example is that U.S. companies will reevaluate the long-term value of cooperation with China, and some orders originally planned to be transferred to Vietnam may Flow back again. Understanding this trend is the basic skill of investors. 4. Reform relies on the courage to say no. In the early days of reform, not everyone supported Deng Xiaoping. Many people questioned, will the market economy become capitalism? Will the special zone become corrupt? Will foreign investment hollow out the country? Deng Xiaoping's response was very direct. It doesn't matter whether it's capitalist or socialist, development is the hard truth. This straightforward statement is actually a strategic no. Today, when we face market noise, we must also dare to say no. For example, in the tariff war, we don't have to be influenced by short-term news but have our own judgment. Seeing a tech stock soar does not mean it will rise tomorrow. Other people's wealth codes may not be suitable for you. We must learn to make choices from long-term trends, just like Deng Xiaoping never blindly followed the trend but set the direction according to China's reality. 5. Ordinary people's wisdom. Be friends with time. One thing is often overlooked. Deng Xiaoping was 74 years old when he returned to power. He did not have the luxury of making mistakes, but he still insisted on using 10 years to lay the future, because he believed that time is the greatest investor. For ordinary people, if you seize the 90-day easing window, you don't have to expect to get rich overnight, but you must plant long-term seeds. For example, you can take advantage of the current reconfiguration of assets, invest part of the funds in China's manufacturing-related ETFs, and the other part in companies that benefit from the global supply chain. Even if there are short-term fluctuations, as long as you extend the time, you can see the trend. This is the wisdom of being friends with time. 6. 3 actionable suggestions for action at the moment. First, invest in yourself. Spending 3 hours listening to an international economics course may be more valuable than watching the market all day. Coursera, Harvard Open courses, and domestic apps such as GetApp are all good resources. Second, fine-tune asset allocation. Shift part of your savings to consumer goods or technology sector ETFs. Don't bet everything on one thing and don't wait and see. Third, regain a global perspective. You may not be a multinational company, but you can be an investor with global awareness. Read more foreign media financial columns. Pay attention to the key clauses in the US-China agreement, and you will slowly understand the direction of the wind. VII, the ultimate meaning of openness. Win-win is not a slogan but a realistic choice. Deng Xiaoping once said, China's development depends on the world, and the world's prosperity also needs China. This is not a diplomatic rhetoric. Today, the global economy is like a passenger on a ship. Any move by the United States and China will affect the course of the entire ship. Therefore, the suspension of the tariff war is not only a decision of the two governments, but also a test of economic cooperation for all mankind. What should ordinary people do? After seeing the global trend clearly, choose to stand on the vent. Just like what Deng Xiaoping did after the negotiations on the establishment of diplomatic relations between China and the United States, hurry up and do it. He did not hesitate. He knew that the more chaotic it was, the more he had to be determined in his direction. Summary: Deng Xiaoping was not a god. He just had a rare wisdom to maintain his determination in the midst of great changes and to create certainty in uncertainty. Today, facing the suspension of the US-China tariff war, we may not be able to change the world pattern, but we can change ourselves. You don't have to be a politician. You can also start as a wise citizen. See the direction clearly and move forward steadily, as the old saying that has been passed down for 100 years, he who knows the current affairs is a hero. Are you ready to seize these 90 days? Part 3. The courage to go with the flow, the key decision in the 90-day investment window. The world is changing at a speed visible to the naked eye. The easing of the US-China tariff war has briefly pressed the pause button for the global economy and quietly opened a door of opportunity. All this makes us have to rethink. In the 90-day breathing period, how should ordinary people act? And what kind of personal inspiration should we draw from Deng Xiaoping's open wisdom? 1. What does the intermission of the global economy mean? When the United States announced that it would reduce tariffs on certain Chinese goods from 145% to 30%, and China also reduced tariffs on some U.S. imports from 125% to 10%, the market's first reaction was relief. Global stock markets rebounded collectively within 72 hours, with Asian markets leading the gains and European and American markets following suit. The Federal Reserve also issued a statement. Smooth trade between China and the United States in the short term will help ease inflationary pressure. This seemingly technical adjustment is actually a rebalancing of global political and economic relations. For ordinary people, this is not just countries negotiating. This is a chain reaction related to prices, employment, investment, and wealth paths. What does the 90-day window mean? It means you have a season to judge, learn, prepare, and take action. 2-3 strategic wisdoms learned from Deng Xiaoping. Deng Xiaoping's opening strategy was not achieved overnight. In 1978, the China he faced had just experienced a decade of turmoil and was waiting to be revived. The world at that time was full of uncertainty about China, but he did not avoid it but chose to take the initiative to go out. We have to cross the river by feeling the stones. This sentence is not only a strategy but also a mentality. Today, we are also standing on the river of global restructuring. Ordinary people can also borrow this strategic thinking to take the initiative for themselves. First, the situation is unstable, and the most important thing is to understand the situation first. Before every opening up move by Deng Xiaoping, he must first understand how the world is moving. He visited the United States in 1979, not just for diplomatic etiquette. He saw the power of American technology in Silicon Valley, felt the speed of capital circulation on Wall Street, and understood the cultural tension of the United States in the Texas Cowboy Show. After returning to China, he promoted the construction of special zones and introduced foreign investment because he knew the fate of a country does not rely on closure but on taking advantage of the situation. Ordinary people are the same. Today, the 90-day tariff buffer is an opportunity to observe the international situation, not an excuse for blind action. Only by learning to analyze the trends behind the news and understand the direction of national policies can we avoid being misled by the wind and waves. Second, slow is fast, steady is victory. Opening up does not mean giving it a go. The opening up advocated by Deng Xiaoping is rhythmic and controlled entry. He piloted the special economic zone in Shenzhen, observed first and then replicated. He introduced foreign capital in small batches and then gradually expanded the scope. His opening up is based on the trilogy of experimentation, adjustment, promotion. Today, when we face investment choices, we should not make hasty decisions just because the window period is short. The correct rhythm is learn a little, lay out a little. Not all in to win the future. Third, believe in long-term value and resist short-term fluctuations. Deng Xiaoping once said, "Development is the hard truth." In his view, as long as the direction is correct, short-term difficulties are only part of the process. He did not waver in the pace of reform because of external doubts, but took steady steps and persisted to the end. The same principle applies to any investment strategy. The current economy is still unstable and the global market is still full of uncertainty. But if you are optimistic about an industry or trend in 5 or 10 years, you don't have to be led by the rise and fall of 1 or 2 days. Really effective investment is based on the joint effect of belief and time. III, 3-step investment advice for ordinary people in 90 days extended version. Step 1, set learning goals instead of profit goals. Instead of thinking about how much money you can make in these 90 days, it is better to decide what you want to learn first. For example, understand the financial report of a technology stock. Understand the composition and dividend mechanism of ETFs. Master a basic risk control method. This kind of knowledge is mastered once and benefits you for life. Observe the trend of the industry and the reaction to the news during learning. You will gradually form your own investment sense. Step 2. Build a small portfolio to test your judgment. Don't invest too much at once. You can start with 1,000 yuan or 5,000 yuan and try to buy an ETF that is closely related to the global economy, such as a fund that tracks global technology leaders, consumer leaders, or logistics and transportation. Through small experiments with real money, cultivate market sense and record whether your judgment is accurate. This is a low-cost way to train decision-making ability. Step 3. Use time strategy to suppress fluctuations. Don't invest all at once, but enter the market in 3 or 5 batches. Adjust the proportion each time according to your own observations. This can alleviate the psychological pressure caused by sudden market fluctuations and avoid the risk of buying at the top of the mountain. This is the batch building strategy used by many mature investors. Fourth, you are not a country, but you can also have strategic initiative. We often hear people say, ordinary people can't influence the global economy. That's right, we can't control the macro trend, but we can find our own position in it. When facing a powerful country, Deng Xiaoping did not choose to confront it head-on, but used pragmatism to exchange space and time for opportunities. Isn't this exactly our attitude when facing a complex market? We can choose to learn and not let the information gap trap us. We can choose to act and not be swayed by panic. We can choose to wait and act at the right time. Ordinary people cannot change the direction of the tide, but they can choose how to paddle and when to dock. The conclusion: investment is a training of inner order. Deng Xiaoping led China to the world with sense of direction, endurance, and faith. Today, you and I are facing the economic wave of globalization. And we also need these 3 things. Don't expect to change your destiny in 90 days. But you can definitely establish a new starting point in these 90 days. Maybe you will find the outbreak point of a certain industry in 90 days. Maybe you have completed your first stock transaction in this period. Or maybe you just understand what follow the trend means. But as long as you really start to think, learn, judge, and try, these 90 days are no longer a transition period, but a turning point in your personal growth. Don't underestimate this period of time, because all great turning points start quietly. You did a great job today. Thank you for watching 365 English. Don't forget to like, leave a message, and comment. We look forward to seeing you in the next video.